Hey, this is Kyle Crawford from Strong Dads. Strong Dads wants to thank Crimer Beer House for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. The beer house was started in 1982 by the Crimer family. Since that time, they have become a Cincinnati favorite. If you're looking for an incredible meal and an incredible setting, you have to try Crimer's Beer House down on Route 128 in Cleves, Ohio.
Welcome to Strong Dads. Hey, this is Merle Hutchinson, and we have the one and only, the simply amazing
Kyle Crawford.
Oh, okay, good. I thought you were going to give us who you'd want to be.
Oh, no.
Right, who you'd rather be.
Well, I was just thinking my intro from the last show was a lot better than your intro, just saying for comparing. I mean, let's be honest.
Really, I'd like us to not compare because if we did start comparing, you'd always come up short, okay? If we just have to get to the real crux of this whole thing. Anyway, hey, welcome to Strong Dads. We're having some fun starting off. We have a good show today in the sense of the topic that we're going to tackle is really the comparison trap.
Yeah.
Right? And why that is an important topic and what it does to us as strong dads in our homes, in our workplace, just with our own image of who we are. And so we're going to have some fun conversation with this and just making light of some of it, but also bringing it back around to why it's really dangerous, especially if we're going to call ourselves Christian men, why it's a very dangerous trap to get stuck in. So anyway, because you do better than I do at doing commercials, why don't you go ahead, Kyle, and do the first commercial?
I will. Thank you.
Jerk.
Yes. So Strong Dads wants to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency in Bright, Indiana for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. The Mansfield Insurance Agency was established in 1981, and they have been dedicated to individuals and businesses in Bright, Indiana, and they serve all clients through Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So for all your insurance needs, check out Mansfield Insurance Agency.
All right. I mean, it wasn't great. I'm going to give you a B+.
B+, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's see if I can do better.
Oh, boy.
What am I doing? Wait, I forget. How does this work?
I thought you were going to do Crimer's Beer House.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to do it for you, too? You already forgot?
Strong Dads wants to say thank you to Crimer's Beer House for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. The beer house was started in 1982 by the Crimer family. Since that time, they have become a Cincinnati favorite. If you are looking for an incredible meal in an incredible setting, you have to try Crimer's Beer House, located on Route 128 in Cleves, Ohio.
Merle, this is like the one part that is actually scripted. Like the only thing we have to say, and what happened?
I'm just trying to live in your shadow. I can't do it. I mean, you've elevated the bar so high, I'll never be good enough.
Do I have to give you a grade on that one?
I'll never be good enough. Please don't, because I'll never be good enough. All right, let's move on. Okay, let's get serious with, you could trade positions places with anyone in the world, in life itself. Who would you rather be?
Oh, man.
Or what life would you rather live?
So this is a tough one.
You'd probably choose some woman or something. Oh.
This is a hard one, and it's not because I think my life is perfect. I don't know.
Are you going to give me some churchy answer?
No, I'm not.
I'm so content with who I am.
I would say, as I've shared before, golf is a huge love of mine. So I'm going to say I would trade with Jordan Spieth. How's that? A pro golfer. He gets to wake up every day and play golf, which is something that I would love to do. Every day, wake up and hit the links and spend multiple hours a day practicing my game. So I would say a professional golfer would be pretty cool. That would be pretty ideal. So we'll go with that. We're gonna go with Jordan Spieth.
All right, man. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That way, because you still get the money. You still get to do what you like to do.
Yeah.
Right. So that would be pretty good.
I think that would be a good one. I mean, I guess professionally, I'm studying for a promotion right now, so I would love to be one of the officers that I work at. Or work for at work. I would love to say, I'll trade with them. That way, I'd be a captain right now. That'd be pretty cool. But
yeah.
So we're gonna go with Jordan Spieth. That's my pick.
All right. Wow, that's pretty good. So I actually had a hard time with this too, just because like I've always kind of considered myself a jack of all trades and a master of none. So I like to do a lot of different things, but I really don't have this major desire to be like super, super fantastic great at any one thing. And so I've always liked just somebody who's really well-rounded and that kind of thing. So actually when I sit there and think about this, it's like I would probably have to do a compilation of people that I would be, you know, like not like one person. Like I just have to confess, you know, I know money is not supposed to be a big deal, but I wish I had a lot more money freedom. I wish, you know, when I think of like guys like Jeff Bezos and stuff like that, and not that that's who I want to trade with, but I would like to just have the freedom of his money. Because I know
no limitation.
Money doesn't buy you happiness, but you can't be happy without it, right?
What's the song? Like money doesn't buy happiness, but it buys me a boat.
Yeah, it buys me a boat, and that's a good start.
Yeah.
So I think it would be cool to have some of that freedom to do that. And then there's other people. Like honestly, if you ever watch. I like guys of just great courage, and I think that's because I sometimes like second guess, like, well, what would I do in that situation? And one of my favorite video series is what I'll call it is the Band of Brothers, which was an HBO series, and one of my favorite characters in there is the Band of Brothers, the officer that was in charge.
Okay.
And just because, man, he is with these guys all the way through. And he does not waver in his conviction of what he does. He gets these guys through the craziest of battle scenes, and obviously that's what the whole thing's about. But it's like, man, I would love to be able to think that I would have that courage and that conviction to do whatever needed to be done to get the job done. So anyway, I kind of have a compilation of things, and then on top of that, you know, I've told you before I like cycling. I would have said maybe Lance Armstrong before the Great Fall. You know? I mean, it was pretty awesome to watch him win Tour de France after Tour de France. But those are just you get into watching a little TV or reading a book, and you find yourself flipping the character and putting yourself in their place. And some of that can be kind of fun and entertaining, but there is something that we're going to talk about today that is just a little bit of a dangerous risk to doing that.
Yeah, sure.
So let's go down this road and talk about the risk of this.
Right, and as we do, I think it's really important to note that everybody does this. This is not a man thing. This is not a woman thing. This is something that we all do. I think there's times, if you start to look at your life, I mean, even if you're in a season where you're not doing a whole lot of comparison because you're having a good season in your life, I think, when you get down to the dumps, when life is hard, I think that comparison is so easy to do. So, I think there's a lot of comfort in that to know that we all do this. Mm-hmm. And not that it makes it good, bad, and different. It's just something, it's good to know that we all do this. So it's something we can all work on that this show is geared for everyone. That's not a specific person. We all have seasons where comparison it kind of does what it does, and it's not always healthy for us. So I definitely think it's important to note that it is something we all do. So I definitely think that's important to note.
Well, and kind of branching off of that, it's something that we all do, whether you believe it or not. We do. In many areas, it's necessary, right? It allows us to establish kind of like from a health perspective, whether somebody's healthy or not. Like, well, what are the normal ranges? So how did I determine normal? So we have to have some means of comparison so that we know what we're up against in various situations. So it's not something that we can run away from and act like it shouldn't ever exist. But at some point, it can actually become a trap. And that's when we start to get outside of God's design for us, of falsely imposing different characteristics or values to us that maybe are not within our wiring, or maybe they are, but at the expense of everything else, right? Maybe I could be the golfer that Jordan Spieth is, but it would be at the sacrifice of everything else in my life, my wife, my family, everything else. So that's where we're starting to fall into the trap. We see this a lot, and again, this finds itself more in the conversation with women, but we actually find it with men, and it's called something different, but we talk about anorexia and bulimia.
Sure.
Where there's a comparison of what is a sexy or healthy or good-looking body, and women have led this particular issue, but we see it equally in men, but it takes on a slightly different look, and it might be in fitness levels, in muscle building, and in these kind of things where we're destroying our body because we become obsessed with comparing and looking at ourselves as how we compare to somebody else.
Yeah.
That has a totally different genetic makeup, right? I mean, I'm not going to be the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger anytime soon.
Yeah.
And again, we'll walk through that conversation, and he's not going to be of the likes of myself.
Right.
Good or bad. So
that's part. That's that idea that God designed multiple different body types. And if you strive to, or you compare yourself to someone that has a different body type than you, it's going to be very, very difficult to achieve that goal that you think you have. Where I work, for any of you men out there that work in a very competitive, very physically based environment, like that's something I'm not the biggest, strongest guy in the world, and so that's something that I do a lot. Like, man, I wish I could be as strong as Joe, the guy I work with. Man, I wish I could be as strong as that guy. Man, I wish I had the endurance like he does. And it becomes very dangerous because God designed us with certain specific talents and things we're good at, and I use those talents, the things that I'm good at. There might be guys that compare themselves to me when it comes to my job, and that's not good. That's why firefighting is a team effort. It takes multiple guys that have multiple different talents to go at that approach and be able to conquer something. And when I do that, when I say, man, like, Could like if the guy I'm with, if he goes down, can I get him out? That's something that I talk about a lot because I want to make sure I can. But if I continue to say, oh, man, I'm just not strong enough. I'm not as strong as this guy can. And it becomes kind of that snowball effect where it kind of brings me to a place, and then I start to be almost kind of play that victim card that we talk about a lot. That I'm not that, but I know I got 5 other guys with me that can do the job that needs to get done. It'll be a team effort.
Right. That's a recognition of your proper place or role based off of your design. I think the challenge that we run into is if we let it go awry long enough, we start to live kind of in an artificial life.
Sure.
This is one reason why we see even younger kids, and I'll just point out younger boys, they get obsessed with superheroes.
Yeah.
Right? And man, like if I could be Batman, or if I could be Flash, or if I could be, because we're finding where we are weak, somebody else, if I could transpose myself into their being, man, that would be awesome. And so we start to have this artificial life to the point where, you got to do a reality check. And it also is a slap in the face of God. Like, well, God, the person that you made, I'm telling you, is not good enough. Right? So why didn't you make me better?
Yeah.
Why didn't you make me different?
Great point.
And so we start beating ourselves up, and then worse, we beat up God.
Yeah.
Like God somehow made a mistake. And so this comparison trap is just a dangerous thing on a lot of different levels. We talk about this all the time in the school setting about how kids fall to the word peer pressure. And peer pressure is all based in that comparison trap. It starts at a very young age with young kids. But I just want to be right up front. Man, I see just as much peer pressure with guys at my age.
Yeah.
With women and men, all the way through, where they're just like constantly finding areas to fall to the pressure of people in their peer group. Okay, man, I need to have it more like this guy or that guy, whether it's making money or the house or the car or the wife, whatever it is. And so this peer pressure becomes something that sticks with us. And again, natural comparison is something that you can do for a level of health.
Sure.
But when it goes to an unnatural or unhealthy level, in the school setting and even outside of that, you see people forming cliques, right? That's a big thing in school. And because I'm going to compare myself with a group of people that I can identify with.
Yeah.
And anybody who's not in my clique, is less than. Right? Like, oh, they're not cool enough to be in this group.
Yeah.
Right?
So the when I always think about comparison, and again, I'm guilty, just like all of you guys out there. When I talk about comparisons, like I always say, like, man, this guy has this, and this. I would love to have that, and that. And I think it's important to really note that a lot of times, especially because our comparison a lot of times are man-made. A lot of times, I want to be as strong as this guy. I want to have the car that this guy has, and I then all of a sudden, what happens when you do get that? When you do achieve that certain goal, are you going to be even happier? Because no, the grass is not always green on the other side, and that's that flaw that we have in human nature. When we put our value and our comparison in human things, they're always going to fall short. They're always going to fall short. And I mean, and the reverse of that, I think a lot of times, like I know I do this, but like, man, that guy, he knows Scripture. Yeah. I would love to know Scripture like he does.
Yeah.
And although that comparison, I think can really strive you to put move into a better place when it comes to your relationship with Christ. Like like, is that comparison good? Because again, like, God didn't. I don't have a great memory. Like, so is memorizing verse, like, although it's something I should do, like, it's hard for me sometimes, and I don't want to minimize the way God designed me. It takes work. It may take me a little bit longer than the other person, but just that comparison trap, again, when it comes to that human nature of man-made things that we compare to, they're always going to fail us. They're always going to fall short.
You bring up a word, I should do, and there's a phrase out there that we can beat ourselves up by shoulding all over ourselves, and that's because the shoulds are based off of comparisons or what other people's demands have stated onto us.
Good point.
And so we have to keep perspective on that. When you talk about the memorization of Scripture and that kind of thing, that's never been my gift either. And man, there was a gentleman, a preacher over at the church that I attended, Harvey Bream. I mean, Harvey was amazing. I think Harvey lived to, I think, like 96 years of age. And up until his final year, he had memorized the entire Bible.
Really?
And he could preach and bring it and bring it with enthusiasm and just excitement. And he was amazing. Yeah. And, it would be very easy for me to go, I want to be like Harvey. But, man, it's just not in me in terms of the memorization skills and all those kinds of things. And so to spend my time spinning my wheels chasing that, I think is just not a good thing for me.
Yeah.
But what is my gift, or what can I do, is really more where we want to direct ourselves. So let's talk a little bit about. So we've talked about the dangers of comparison, whether it's for you or your kids or your wife, the dangers of that and where it leads us to. But let's talk about, well, why does it happen and what can we do to stop it? Because if we don't understand the why of it happening, then we really won't be able to wrap ourselves around, well, what are we going to do then to prevent it from growing and becoming a significant issue in our world? So one of the first things that I think we really need to point out is, the reason why we oftentimes compare is because we're not certain on who we are.
Yeah.
We don't have our own value system.
Right.
Like, we have not locked in on who we really are and what we really value. And so we're kind of like a tumbleweed out there just blowing around looking to see what we might stick to. And so one of the very first things that I really want to just bring to light here is this idea that if you find yourself stuck in comparing your life to everybody else's, whether it's your house, your car, your bank account, your wife, your kids, whatever, my first challenge to you is, what do you value? Because when you define what you value, and what that is based in, like whether it's something that has a strong foundation, you no longer have to look to other people. You start practicing your values rather than practicing following somebody else.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And you made a great point when it comes to our kids. raising kids, obviously you guys can all attest to it, any strong dads out there, it's hard. And one of the reasons it's hard is because they put these milestones for these kids. And again, milestones aren't necessarily a bad thing because it's where your kids should be. But I know, like, when I was trying to teach Ava how to ride a bike or tie her shoes or whatever the case may be, and then I see other kids similar her age are doing those things, then I start to, like, question myself as a dad. And if I know my value that Jenny and I have set, these are what we want our girls to know, when we want them to know it, how we want them to know it, and if we really begin to evaluate the value that we have and where our values really come from, is riding a bike and is tying a shoe that big of a deal? Although yes, she may not be at the same place other kids are her age, and I may a little bit question myself as a dad, am I doing the right things? Like, if I understand that my goal and role in raising my daughter doesn't really matter if she can ride a bike,
right?
Like, and so just what you're saying, like, if we begin to really evaluate where that value really comes from,
right,
I think it puts things in a lot better perspective, because we can compare all day long. I can say, man, my girl can do this and yours can't, or vice versa. But if I really can Ava shoot a free throw, in basketball? No, she can't. But
well, that's a problem for you, isn't it? I mean,
it is a big problem for me. But again, like, it just goes that idea that Jenny and I have set priorities in our life that we want to make sure our girls understand. So when it comes to raising kids, comparison is a very, very hard thing to not do. But just understand that as long as you and your wife are on the same page on what you want to teach your kids, if they fall a little behind on these quote unquote milestones, like, is it that big of a deal?
Right. Yeah. Keep perspective on it. One of the things that we're talking to strong dads out here, so let's just cut to the chase on this and understand, if your value system or lack of is what keeps you in the game of comparison and seeing how other people are living, there's a really super easy solution to this as a strong dad, as a Christian strong dad, and that is, we're going to challenge you to, what does a Christian value? What does our Bible say? What does the Word of God say? I mean, if you're really wondering, well, how should I live? What should I live for? What does all this look like? It's time to start to explore your faith a little bit more, because, and I point this out, man, the roadmap is there. It's very clear. And when you do that, I can start to look at the actual roadmap of what is important, how I'm going to live, and what's going to be important and what is not going to be important. I can look at, okay, here's what I'm going to invest in, and I can get all that other crap out of my life, whether my house is the right house or whether my bank account is the right one, or all of these other comparisons start to fall short when I establish the value system that Christ gave us. And so this is, I'll just go back to a scripture that we use here at Rock Solid Families all the time, Matthew 7:24 through 27, and it's the wise and foolish builder.
Yeah.
And we talk about this because it is the base of how when Linda and I coach marriages and families, we use this to help us determine how we're going to function through. Because we could go through a lot of psychology books and figure out how we're supposed to approach every couple. And with every book, we'll get a different approach.
Sure.
And Rock Solid Families is based off the idea of the wise and foolish builders. And that is the idea. We have to have a common foundation that we're going to work off of.
Yeah.
And this is, not to read the entire scripture out there, but the idea that, 2 homes were built. One was built on a sandy foundation. One was on a solid rock. Storms hit both of them. All right. The rains came, the winds blew, and the one on the sandy foundation was washed away. It was washed away because it was constantly flexing and moving, and in that comparison of what could be versus the foundation of the rock.
Yeah.
And so, man, what a gift right here, guys. If any of you find yourself or your kids in being beat up by the comparison trap, here's your big eraser right here. Erase all that garbage and plug in this scripture right here. Like, okay, I'm going to find out what this foundation looks like, what this rock looks like.
Yeah, I mean, because if what you put value in and what you put your belief system in is not of biblical principles, so the world's going to continue to change. Society's going to continue to tell you, you need this in order to be happy. You need this in order to be happy. And then when you achieve those, are you really happy? And so what society tells you should be comparing your life to, what, men's health, the magazine, what that guy on the front cover,
right,
I want that. And so if you put your value in that, then when 2 months from now, when that man that's on there looks different and he looks a lot stronger, and then you start to say, well, I want to achieve that. Mm-hmm. So if your value is something that society tells you, ultimately is it going to make you happy, versus something we believe, is a constitution of what we should base our life off of, something that has never changed and never going to change. It's always going to be tried and true. And when you put your value in that, that comparison trap isn't so significant. We should put ourselves in a place where we are building into our kids for them to want to live biblical principles, because those are tried and true. Those are not going to change.
It gives them a steady thing to shoot
Absolutely.
for. Like the comparison trap is a moving target.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because what I'm shooting for today all of a sudden falls short tomorrow, based off of trends and styles and stuff like that.
Exactly.
When I walk through this, there's some of these things that I look at and go, yeah, that's really not a problem for me. I've got that part. But then there's other areas that I look at and go, well, I don't know about that. And so I think it's important that once you recognize you have a tendency to compare, and to the point where in some places, in some areas, it could be unhealthy, you have to recognize your own areas that you have like self-doubt, okay? Think about this for a second. Like if I'm a school kid and I'm going in to take a test, and I've completely studied and I know all this material, I'm going to go sit down on that test with a sense of confidence, and I'm going to walk through that test. And there's no reason for my eyes to go anywhere else, because every question I read, I have an understanding of, and I know where I'm going with my answer.
Right.
But if I go, like I have many times before, into that test with only being halfway read up, not fully studied, and I sit down and I start reading these questions, and I don't quite know the answer, what's the first thing I'm going to do?
Wandering eyes.
My eyes start to look and compare.
Yeah.
What did he write? Right?
Yep.
And just think about that. That analogy is exactly what we do in life. When we're not certain about where we are going, our eyes drift.
Yeah.
And so we can't blame kids for doing that, but there's also a responsibility to it. And that is, well, start studying and knowing what you're there for, okay? And in the case of us living our life, it's about, well, what are you preparing for? What's your life going to be about? So understanding when you are not prepared, understanding where you are weak, and starting to take the measures to basically shore that up and to get more strong. And that's why we talk about, like, in our own faith. Listen, I am flawed in my faith, but I am confident in what my faith is.
Yeah.
In other words, I may not know it all, but when I say I need to go dig in, I believe in the word that I say or that I read.
Right.
And so that's important. So in the moment, I may not know exactly what it is, but I have to go back into the source and study it and figure it out and get greater confidence.
Yep. And that self-doubt that you were talking about, I definitely think that's Satan's way of telling you you're not good enough. Mm-hmm. And he's going to continue to do that. And I talk a lot on this show about my job. There's guys that I work with that, man, they are good at certain aspects of the job, and I'm like, man, I'm not even good enough to be in the same room as them. And so I have a little bit of self-doubt, and then then I start things that I'm really good at my job, and there's guys that can learn from me just like I learn from them. So you just need to realize that there may be avenues or may be things in your life where you're not as strong, just like you were talking about, Merle, but there's so many good things that you have that you can teach other people. And if all we do is play that comparison game, well, he knows more than I do, then you're never going to take those opportunities to be able to teach other people things that you know, things that you're really good at. Yeah,
and then coming together as that team, right?
Yeah.
So the next part of this that we want to move toward is the idea of, okay, if I'm going to avoid a negative comparison trap, I need to strengthen myself and my value system, but I also need to strengthen my band of brothers, who I'm going to affiliate with, the people that are going to accept me for who I am, but make me be better at who I am.
Sure.
Like if you're not the biggest, strongest fireman on the department, but you have the keenest sense of how to attack a fire.
Sure.
Okay. Then if that's your skill, then your band of brothers says, Kyle, give us your go on this. What is your thought on how we do it? And then you start to become more proficient at actually that role. Yeah. Okay, so whether it's a band of brothers, whether it's a church, whether it's your own family, surround yourself with people that are going to let you be you, but then ask you to be the best you that you can be.
Yeah, and you maybe just kind of think of I've talked about the 5 marks of a man, and one of those is a team player, and that idea that our team, we should know the strengths and weaknesses of our team, and that idea that yes, I'm not the biggest, strongest guy, but I got a guy on my crew, Joey, who is a freaking ox. Yeah, he is a freaking ox. But when my captain needs someone to crawl through a tiny little hole, he's not going to ask Joey because he's a big old boy. He's going to probably ask me because that's a strength that I can bring to the table. But if I continue to compare myself to Joey and be like, man, I want to get stronger like he does, then maybe I'm going to get to the point where I won't fit in that small little hole. So just like you're saying, that team player, that being a part of a team and having those things that as a whole you are so strong as a whole, not individually. So again, that comparison kind of can really kind of defeat the team and makes you compare to other teams like that team.
Weakens your team. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, as a strong dad, we want to talk about, I look at this as that severe peer pressure that our kids are under, and they're still trying to really wrap their head around a value system and what all this means. And so, bring your kids and your family together around this. Unite your family on understanding how the comparisons and peer pressure can get us in trouble. And educate your kids on it. And I think just as you are talking about your own strength in the fire service, and you talked about your daughters, maybe they don't ride the bike right now, but she's not short on a huge heart and spirit for life, right? And so that is part of her gift that we want her to know that's the best version of her. Yeah. So starting to point out, listen, I'm not going to look at all of your weaknesses, and I'm not going to let you stare at all your weaknesses. Yeah. Because I don't want you to start beating yourself up over that. So there's a healthy work through that. The idea here always is that when we're raising kids up, we have to give them the tools to understand what the comparison trap looks like. Yeah. If we don't, they'll find themselves stuck. Right. Yeah. So what you probably heard this phrase before, because I've heard it before, but it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me until I had a daughter. Okay. Okay. Because I have a daughter who is very much into style and fashion.
Okay. Yeah.
And so she is looking at everybody's latest style and fashion. And quite honestly, it can sometimes drive me insane because I don't really care, but I don't want to dismiss who she is. Right. Yeah. And so one of the phrases that I just kind of throw out there is like, you know what? In matters of style, you go with the flow. In matters of principle, you stand like a rock. Yeah. And so whether it's a different pair of shoes or a hairstyle, it's like, some of that, whatever, okay? But in matters of principle, we're not going to fluctuate on that. Right and wrong, right? How we treat people, trust and honesty and love and respect. These things, no, these are the things we're going to shoot for. That style stuff, it comes and goes, right? Yeah. And so chasing that like it's a big deal will be just nothing but frustrating. Right. So go with the flow on it.
Yeah, just what we're talking about, if your family's values and your family's principles are built in biblical ideas and biblical principles, like yes, those are the foundation that your family's built on. But there's going to be, just like you're saying, the flow is going to come and go. But as long as your principle, as long as your family's built on that biblical fact that Jesus loves you, He died for you. Like if your family's built on those things, man, like that. My youngest Mia, she'll sit in front of a mirror for like every mirror. Like she'll walk past the fireplace and she'll see a reflection. So she stops and looks at herself. Just what you were saying. It's like yes, that's just who she is. And I don't want to minimize. I don't want to tell her like it. She cares about her appearance, which is fine. But again, what is
obviously you don't. But
what does her heart say? What reflection does her heart show to other people? Mm-hmm. And so those are the things. Those are the important things that I want to make sure I portray to her, that I teach her, that the values in this house, are built on biblical principles.
Right. Yeah. There's that old phrase: keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
Right. So keeping the main values, your values for Christ, and how your family's going to live, keeping that is the main thing, and everything else falls secondary to that. And so, not to diminish Mia's desire to want to look in the mirror and straighten up her hair, because that's our daughter, right? She just I don't have to tell her to do that; it just naturally happens. But to help them then develop a healthy understanding of, okay, let's keep the main thing, right? It's not like that's going to send you to hell, but it also, we don't want that to dictate how you're going to run your life, right? Because your hair gets messed up every day, right? And it'll never be perfect. It'll never be right. So just learning to teach perspective on those things. All right. What's our challenge, man?
Well, I was going to say, I
don't remember, because you're terrible at this job. You're not nearly as good as me.
I was going to say, all my points are so much better than yours, so I think you should tell them what their homework is.
I'll never be as good as you, Kyle. I'll never be as good.
That's not very nice. That's not very nice. Well, yes, you tell them, since my points are so much better than yours.
All right, I'll see if I can live up to your standard. So the whole idea for our challenge here is just to really understanding, taking control of what it is that you value. The phrase, don't let the tail wag the dog. When you're chasing comparisons, you're allowing other people's value systems to really regulate and run your life. And so stop it. Take control of what you value, how you're going to live, and start to build on that. And when you understand your value system for life, all that other stuff just really, it falls off the plate. You don't have to worry about it. So our first challenge is to, for you strong dads out there, what do you value? What are you going to teach your kids? This is huge. I mean, if you constantly reinforce that the most important thing in your life is how shiny your sports car is out in the garage, okay, all right, that's what you're going to teach them. And then they're always going to fall short, because their car will never be shiny enough, right? And so they're chasing something that's very empty. So you need to really think about that. There's so many areas that we fall short on, and your kids are going to quickly, we know this for sure. People tend to look at their weaknesses far more than their strengths. And they stare at those. And when they get fixated on their weakness, they spend a lot more time trying to cover that. And if we cover it artificially, like, I'm not very powerful, but if I make more money, I'll be more powerful than my neighbor. Okay? And that's a false inflation of what power is. So.
And just our last show we did was about laughing at yourself. Like, if you've been kind of caught in a whirlwind of comparing yourself to other people, I think it's important to note, like, you're not all that. Right. And it's okay. Laugh at yourself a little bit. Enjoy the ride. And again, we all make comparisons. It's something we all do. But just going back and just remember what we talked about. That you're not gonna fulfill the things that you're comparing yourself sometimes to. So build your values on biblical principles. Laugh at yourself a little bit. When there's comparisons, when your kids start to make those comparisons, let them dream a little bit. It's nothing wrong to let them dream a little bit, but just put everything in perspective. Kind of pump the brakes a little bit, put everything in perspective, and laugh at it. Like, you're probably not going to be a millionaire, but it's okay. Like, that's okay, because in this house we don't necessarily care about money. Like, sure, it'd be nice to buy that boat, right? But it's okay. Like, in this house, we love you for who you are, regardless of what your fashion is, what your hair looks like. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, we're going to look at more of the main things of who your character is. So, all right, the great points. Hopefully, some things that we can walk out of here with, and also as being strong dads that we can really work out and teach to our kids. So, with closing up, we would like to say thank you to Kramer's Beer House and Mansfield Insurance for coming alongside of strong dads and supporting our efforts here. We also, if there's anything that we can do here with strong dads, and in particular rock solid families, feel free to reach out to us at 812-576-7625. And Kyle, you Your email is not as good as mine, so that's why I always give my email out.
Oh, okay. I got it. That's good. Yeah.
Anyway, if you need to get a hold of us with our emails, you can get me at hutch@rocksolidfamilies.org. The reason why we don't give Kyle's email out is because he doesn't have one yet. He's going to have to get off his hands.
I got to figure out how to do an email thing.
He is the most tech illiterate person, and that is a comparison because I'm comparing you to me on that, and that is pathetic.
But you know what? I don't compare myself to you because I don't care about that stuff.
Oh, you don't care about me? That's what you just said.
No, that's simply not true.
You hurt my feelings. Sign us out.
Yes, guys, go out there and be some strong dads.
Hey, this is Merle Hutchinson from Strong Dads. Strong Dads wants to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency in Bright, Indiana for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. Established in 1981, the Mansfield Insurance Agency has been dedicated to the individuals and businesses in Bright, Indiana, serving clients throughout Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky.